Good morning, good morning, good morning. Everybody's starting to filter in really quickly now. There you go.
Hi, Michelle. It's Annette. I'm here.
Good morning. We're going to get started in just a minute. I had technical difficulties this morning of finding the place to put the camera. It's weird. We rearranged the classroom and I love the arrangement. I just haven't figured out which way works for me, but maybe it's just me. You know how sometimes that kind of goes that way. So this morning, go ahead.
Sorry, Michelle. How do I get a full screen? All I got is a
All right, so go up in your upper left corner where it says view.
Uh-huh.
And then click on full screen. And it should be set for, I set the camera for being spotlight for everyone. So you should be able to do it that way.
Okay.
And then let me know if that doesn't work. So
it's
on the
still
upper
narrow.
right, okay, in the upper right corner, it says view.
Yeah.
And right now I have gallery. So go ahead and click on speaker and see if that magnifies the one.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And then let us know if it works, because somebody else probably has that question too. And they just haven't asked it yet. And right about the time you get to know how everything works, there'll be an update and they'll be so excited to show you the new features. And you're like, oh crap, they moved everything around again.
Yeah, I still, for some reason, have a narrow screen, but that's fine. I can still see it.
But is it fitting in the full screen, or are you seeing all the people?
I'm seeing the people on my right side.
Uh-huh.
And then, I have in the center the narrow and then black on the left.
Okay.
But it's fine. I can still see your hands and your laptop and stuff.
Well, my laptop's going to be moving, but yeah, it's right up here now but I'm going to move it in the middle. So
okay.
Yeah, spotlight should be, that's about all I can do. Are you on an iPad?
No, I'm using my laptops myself.
Oh, okay. All righty. So we are doing a very fun project today for this month. This is the Happy as a Lark pillow, and I love this. It combines a couple of things that I really like. They call it a Trapunto pillow, but if you don't know what Trapunto is the art of putting a filler or something, in this case, flexi foam, underneath something that you want to highlight and then running a lot of stitches in between it. So it really flattens down everything that's around it and allows that to pop. So it was definitely a very fun project. I enjoyed doing it. I have a couple of things I'm going to show you that they were on the supply list. One, if you've got your kit from A1, you have the flexi foam and the batting and everything in there. Also in class today, we are not doing the 5x7. We are doing the 8x10 or whatever. I think it's the 6x10, but the 8x10. We're not going to match. We're not going to do a split hoop on this because you don't need to. This is the large design. If you have a 6x10 or an 8x12 or a 9.5x14 or anything like that, you can do it in that. So it's kitted actually for the 8x8 design. Take it from there. The only thing that you might have to enlarge if you use a bigger hoop is you might have to provide your own stabilizer that you hoop with. So we have project batting, we have foam, we have fusible backing, which is our shape flex. I like to start by pressing all of my pieces of fabric with some best press. And then I also like to, prep the pieces that need the SF-101 on them before I get started. And then some of the additional materials that I used, you can use paper tape if you want to tape, that's fine. We prefer here at A1, we prefer the transport tape. It just sticks stickier than the paper, and it's easy to tear if you want to split the piece. So, but whatever you have, a lot of this doesn't require tape. Some places really, will turn out better if you do kind of tape things in place. The other thing that we'll need later on, if you look at your design, you'll notice that there was no crosshairs for placement for this one where you fold your fabric and then place it because we don't need it. It's just, we're just going to sew in the middle of the square, but you will need, if you have an 8x8 pop ruler to trim it out when you're done. And if you don't, you can trim it out with a ruler. Just make sure you center it pretty well. I also have, which I just got one for myself, and I'm absolutely in love with this. Oh, colors: dark blue, light blue, beige, or linen, yellow, green, magenta, orange, and white. The white is going to be for sewing. I'm going to move these over out of the way now. Where I can reach them. And then I just got one of these Martelli I might be the last person on the planet to get one. Everybody else all had one. I'm like, oh, I don't need that. And I'm like, oh, yes, I need that. So I just got my Martelli's rotating mat. It also comes with, you can buy them in the individual pieces, or you can buy them in a set. It also comes with like a pressing mat. You will need some scissors for trimming. You're going to be trimming the flexi foam. So what's important on trimming the flexi foam, let me bring this down here. Oh, I know why you're just seeing it skinny. Watch. There we go. Now, do you have a full frame, Annette? It was me, not you. See?
Yes, I see it much better. Thank you.
The camera was in the other, my phone was in the other position. All right. So you're going to need like a double curve scissor to be able to get in the hoop. The flexi foam is going to create depth. So you need to be able to trim that. The other ones I also like is these guys because they're really sharp at the tip. All right. And why sharp at the tip? Because if you have to go in a corner, if this folds over when you're trimming, you're not going to get in that corner. This will not fold over. And then you'll need some nippers for the extra threads, whatever you prefer. I kind of like the OESD ones that have this little hook in there because it lets you grab the thread and pull it out. And then here's my best press rotary cutter. And I think that's about it. All right. I've got the iron on. So I'm going to move this out of the way for now. And I'm going to start by opening up the kit and looking at what's in it and then getting it all the fabrics pressed. And the white fabric is where the stitching goes. So that's going to be the one that gets. Here's the project again. And it is just so cute. It really was. It was fun. All right, so let's open up your kit. Let's see what we got. Oh, this one got taped down good. All right.
Michelle?
Yes.
May I ask a question? It's Linda.
Of course.
I have all the people, but your square that you're working on is really tiny. I don't know how to make it bigger.
All right. So essentially you're going to do what Annette did. So when you look in your upper right corner of the black screen that has all the people, you'll see a box that says view. Click on that box and then click on speaker.
Diggity dog. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, so we have the strips that we're going to use later. That's going to be the flange on our pillow. I'm just going to press those. Here's my white fabric and my SF-101. I'll set that aside. Here is, why do I have white polka dot? Oh, the back. Oh, the backing. Yes. Hello. This is going to be my envelope back later. I am going to press all my fabric, even though I I'm not going to be applying anything. I have my flexi foam and my batting. So the Kimberbell flexi foam, you know, I'm a bag maker and I buy foam by the bolt because I use it for stability in bags. And I just buy the Pellon, I think it's P77 foam, F77 foam. I like this. I like this for smaller projects. You know why? Because it's just a slightly thinner. So if you've ever thought, wow, I have a lot of in the hoop little wallets or bags or something like this, and foam just seems like overkill. I'm not going to be able to turn it. Try the flexi foam, the Kimberbell flexi foam. I tried it in a project the other day, a bag project, and I was like totally thrilled with it because it wasn't as hard to turn inside out, and it gave my bag the stability. And you know, win-win, right? All right, so let me move my ironing board over here. So I have both of my pieces here that I'm going to press. Looking at the back of the pillow, I can see where they're going to go right here. But for right now, I'm just going to press them with a little bit of best press on it. It'll always make your fabric nicer to work with. And right now, I don't know about you, but right now I'm not worried which is the right side and the wrong side, because you know what? I can never tell on the polka dot fabric until I just really look up on it close. This is the back. This is the front. Any of that tone on tone fabric, I really struggle to figure out which side's the right side and the wrong side. Sometimes I mark it right when I buy it. So I know, because it's usually wrapped with the outside facing out on the bolt. It's like it's time to, oh, I have a lot of dusty stuff in there. That's why. All right, so I'm going to take this and just set it aside for the moment. And I'm going to grab, now this one I have to make a decision right now, which is the right side, because I got to put SF101 on it. That looks like the wrong side. That looks like, I can't tell. Oh, no, that's the right side. This is the wrong side. I love tone on tone fabric, but sometimes, boy, the eyes, especially white, hard to tell. All right, so now I'm going to put my SF101 on the back. A little hint about applying fusible stabilizer. If you're at my house, I'm using a heat press, like the one I used to heat press onto t-shirts, because it's going to be perfect the first time. If you're using an iron, you can still do it, but we're not ironing. If you really want it to fuse, press and hold. Count to 10. Lift it up, move to a different place, because you're not ironing, you're pressing. And, you know, just by hitting the steam and going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth is not really going to fuse it permanently. In this project, it probably wouldn't matter. But if you were doing like a bag or an in the hoop purse or something like that, and you had to turn it inside out when you were done, that's when it's going to peel away. So after you've done the press, press, press in certain areas, then you can flip it to the right side and steam to your heart's content. Especially where you want to look at is at the edges. So right here, I haven't done that yet. My edges over here are looking good. All right. So now that I know I pressed it and it's sticky, now I can just go ahead and do this to get whatever wrinkles or bubbles are still left. And then I want to leave it for just a little bit while it cools. So I'm just going to scoot it up a little bit. And then I'm going to iron my pieces here just to get the fold out of it. The one piece is just one. So the fuse happens when it gets equal pressure all the way across the surface, and then it cools. So the actual stick, permanent stick, happens when it cools in place on the item that you're trying to put fusible to.
Excuse me, Michelle, I didn't receive my, this is Julie. I did not receive my kit. I was hoping it would come today, but so far no mail.
Okay,
Anyway,
welcome
I'll
to
just
just
watch
hang-
along and
yeah, absolutely. We're happy that you're here. It's always fun to, you know, kind of chuckle and laugh and enjoy each other's company. And you'll have two videos, because the first video, when I actually put it together, has already been posted. And then you'll have this one as well. I'm sorry you didn't get it.
Yep. Well, I was late ordering it. So anyway, I have everything else. Thanks.
Oh, good.
I'll mute.
All right. And then, yeah, I got a kind of a dent in here. You cannot write on top. You have to have something to protect it. It'll, you know, the coating that's here will stick to the bottom of the iron. So guess what I'm just going to do? I'm just going to put that on top of it. All I need to do is just kind of make that dent in the middle go away. It'll make me happy. All right. So we pressed and we have stabilizer. I'm not going to press it. Don't worry. And now I'm going to grab my directions. So the directions, the first part of the project in the directions is always for the split hoop, for if you have only a 5x7, but we're not going to be, you can follow the pictures for some of the steps if you like, but for us, we're actually going to go ahead until we get to page 12. So page 12 is us. So we have file is an 8x8 Happy as a Lark Trapunto pillow. The finished size is 10x10. We're going to iron fusible backing. Guess what? We did that. We're going to hoop the medium cutaway stabilizer and load the embroidery file. So I'm gonna grab, let's see, what do I have back here? I have an 8x8 hoop. I bet that'll work. So let me grab that one. I didn't grab a hoop last night when I was setting up because I wasn't sure which one I was going to use, but I'll go ahead and use the 8x8. The square hoops are actually my favorite. So if you're going to take part in the fun upcoming activity of the brother accessory sale, I would say go for the square hoops. They're just all along. They've always been the ones I've used the most. Why? Well, because I kind of like doing in the hoop quilt blocks and things like that. And it saves a lot of stabilizer in the long run. So I have all the ones that brother has. So I have a 6x6, which I don't use as often, but sometimes I use it for patches. My 8x8, I have 3 of them so that I can literally hoop the next quilt block and have the hoops lined up and ready to go. And then the 9.5x14, I have a couple of them. The 10 5/8 by 10 5/8, I just have the one that came with my luminaire. But again, I have all of those square ones. If you are looking for something fun to buy at the sale, there you go. There's my 2 cents worth. All right.
Michelle,
so yes.
Question with the I have this, I think the 7x12 magnetic hoop. Will that be big enough?
Let me see just a minute. Let me bring the design up and see exactly what size it is, because that's what's going to be the deciding factor. I hadn't gotten that far yet, so but let me check just before you get it all hooped. You know, it might, but it's going to be close. So the actual size of the design is 6.80 by 6.88. When you look at a 7-inch width of hoop, you really have 6 5/8. So I would say try it. Put the hoop on the machine and bring the design up, and then go all the way like you were going to sew it. If it doesn't tell you to change to a larger hoop, you can use it. But don't hoop your stabilizer yet, because then you'll have to rehoop it if it's not going to work.
Okay.
But so your sewing field is going to be just a little bit marginally smaller than your what the hoop size is, only because you have to look at your foot. that on one side of the foot, you've got, you know, the whole application of the foot, the whole part of the foot. And on the other side, you still have, you know, the left side of the foot, and it still has to have room to stitch. So you will have a dead zone in all hoops all the way around. It's about, I think it's about a half an inch, maybe all the way around the inside of the hoop where it's a no-sew zone. All right, so I am looking now at loading the embroidery file. So we're starting on page 13 and I'll refer back and forth to the pictures. I wish when they did the directions, because the directions are always so good. I wish when they did the directions, they'd put the pictures in all of them, but because I think a lot of us are more visual than you know, reading. So we'll flip back and forth. But right now we're on page 13. And I'm just going to take what I'm going to need for the next few steps, which is going to be my white that I just put my SF-101 on, my batting, and my flexi foam. And I'm moving over to the machine. So let me go ahead and pause that. And also, so you're not looking at the back side of my head, I'm going to close the Genie window that has my picture. What happened? Oh, because I paused it. Let me go. I'm like, what happened here? All right. All right, so I'm still here. I'm just moving the laptop over by me so I can see your happy faces this morning because we're having fun. Sorry, there we go. Now we're cooking with gas, I think. Okay. So this is our design. So if you open the designs, you probably only downloaded the 8x8 one, unless all you have is a 5x7 hoop. If you have a 5x7 hoop, I don't remember because I did this pillow when it first came out, but I may have recorded it in the 5x7. Usually if there's two, I do. But 8x8, I might not have because it includes a lot of models. Go ahead and select set. Over here are our different colors. I have all my colors lined up. Let's see what we're going to start with. I have my 8x8 embroidery hoop. And let's see. So first step is I like to look at and take cue from these lines right here. Okay, so that means that it's like a placement line or a tack down line or something like that. And it means that it doesn't care what color you sew it in. I do like to look ahead and see what I'm going to use first. So it looks like the outer border outlines are what I'll end up stitching down first, which is yellow. Now, my fabric is white, so I might not want to use the yellow because I'm going to see it. But if it doesn't matter, if you're not going to see it, then look at the first actual color that you have to use. And if the fabric's dark and you're not going to see it, just thread up with that because it saves you changing thread. I'm going to go, just go with the white. You know what? I'll go with the beige just so you can see it on the camera. And then I still won't see it because that way you'll be able to see the steps. So I'm going to just leave the camera focused right here on the project. And then we'll follow along together in the directions. Who cannot, besides me, who cannot believe that it's already August? Seems like I waited forever for winter to go away so that it would be spring. And now I'm like, oh my God, please bring on the pumpkin spice. I'm dying from the heat.
So Michelle, this is Linda, and I have all my papers are a mess and I don't know where you are.
Okay. All right. So right now, we have brought the design up on the embroidery screen and pressed set. We have not pressed embroidery yet. We just have pressed set. Step one, we already did. We ironed the fusible backing to the wrong side of the front hoop fabric. We hooped our medium cutaway stabilizer and we loaded the file onto the machine. So each step, step one, step two, step 3, and step 4 after this.
Okay, there's part projects, and I believe that my designs are all messed up because I
Okay,
have part
you only
three.
need one design, Linda, only one.
No,
You're gonna use the 8x8. The other two are for somebody that has a 5x7 hoop and they have to do a split hoop.
okay, so I have the full
Yes,
design on my
Yes.
screen.
that's it. Just press set. We haven't gone any further yet.
I don't have a set, but I'm still don't know where we are on the papers, and that's my problem.
Well, Linda, I'm telling you where we are on the papers. I'm
It's
walking you
page
through. We
30.
haven't done anything yet.
Oh,
I'm gonna go
page
through each step.
13.
Michelle,
page-
Those numbers.
are we on
The page-
page 13?
We are in fact on page 13.
You guys, I don't have page numbers, so.
Okay, Linda, please, I'm telling you, I'm gonna tell everybody step by step, okay? You aren't lost. If
Yeah,
you
I am.
have the design on your screen, you're where you need to be, and I'm going to read every single step to you, and we'll follow along together, okay? You're okay. It's all right. You can do this one without having all your papers. It's okay. All right, so put
Okay,
your hoop
that's
on
the
your
lower
machine.
half. We're not
I'm sorry.
doing lower half, right?
No, you're just doing the full design. So the other ones are for somebody that does not have a machine that can sew an 8x8 hoop. All right, so they have to use a 5x7 hoop because they don't have a bigger hoop, and then they have to do a split hoop design. You have a machine with a big hoop, so just the one design is the only one you're going to need today.
Okay, I just
right.
wish I could figure out where we were.
I'm telling you where we are. That just put the
Okay.
design on. You're good. I'm going to walk everybody through it step by step.
Okay,
Right.
I've used my backing, I've got that ready, so
Okay. All
I
right.
got my colors ready.
All right. So is your SF101 fused to the back of your first piece?
Yes,
Okay, perfect. You're right in the right spot. All right. So the first, you have thread on your machine?
I didn't put the top thread in because I didn't know what color to use.
So these, we're going to be sewing on white. So these are all going to be the first few steps are just going to be placement of batting, of fabric. And in
Okay.
some cases, I would just load up with the first color, which in this case is yellow, but I'm not going to do that because the fabric is white and I don't want it to show through. So I put like the linen or the white, put either one of those two colors, the off-white or the white, just thread up with that because these are just placement lines. All right. So, color stop number one. First of all, everybody push embroidery now on the lower right of their machine. And if you look at the top, you'll see that the design is 6.80 by 6.88. It has 20,704 stitches, and we'll be changing the thread 15 times, which is why when you just have like a tack down or a placement, just use the same color all the way through for that. So our first stop, you can see a picture on the screen. Our first color stop is to do a placement line for the project batting. So we'll need the batting piece and we're just going to push go and sew the placement line right on. Oops, I guess I should push the thread button on mine. We're just going to sew the placement line of where we're going to put the batting.
Okay.
All right, so when you're done and you've sewn the placement line, go ahead and place your batting over the top of that placement line.
Okay, I'm a mess. Okay.
You know, you might want to just watch, Linda. I don't want you to be all stressed out.
I think
All
I
right.
forgot to put the longer shank on my machine.
Okay.
So the
It's the
embroidery foot
embroidery
isn't
foot.
matching.
Linda, it's the embroidery foot, so it doesn't have a shank. I'm just going to let you kind of get situated. I can't keep stopping class, so
So
get your foot on. And if you want, you can just watch and catch up after the fact. Okay. All right. So we have the placement line for our embroidery batting. And I'm going to just place the batting. So what I like to do when I place things, okay, if I know I'm working with a hoop that has markings on it, so your snap frames won't really have this, but all of your hoops that come with your machine have these little notches, top and bottom, side to side. So if I want to place this in the center and I use the light colored thread, I can see it, but you probably can't. So what I do is I'm going to fold my batting in half and I'm going to match that half-inch line, that half-inch mark with the notches on the side. Okay. I can see side to side where I need to place. Just going to move it so it's even. Then I hold the bottom down here and then just push the top up. So I know that I've got it centered. And I'm just going to take a little piece of tape and I'm going to tape the corners. And I'm not going to use a lot. I don't like to peel tape out of stitching. So I'm just going to take a piece of transport tape. And I'm just going to take a little bit and I'm just going to tape the corners down. Really, I could hold this down without any tape at all, but just for the sake of those of you that prefer to tape, just make sure you kind of keep it out of the stitching line because it can be a booger if you have to pull stitching out of any kind of tape, paper or otherwise, when it's stitched to batting, because then it just like pulls everything out. Okay, so I am taped on my corners. The second stitch that I'm stitching is, it says, stitch the batting tack down line, trim the batting close to the stitching line. So I'm going to do that. And again, I'm just using the off-white. But honestly, if it was another project where I was putting a darker fabric over the top of the batting, I would just be using the color of the first actual color the pattern calls for, because then I don't have to change the thread as often. All right, I'm going to take this off. I'm going to take it over to the table and I'm going to trim my batting because that's the next step. I have to trim my batting. Okay, let me move that over and then I'll bring you guys over. Okay, so for this, I always like to use a scissor that has a double curve. And I know they were here, so where did I put them? Did I put them over? Oh, here they are. That's what I bet none of you spend the majority of your day looking for something you had 5 minutes ago. All right. So I'm just going to kind of grab the tape and I'm just going to stick the tape here just in case I need it later. It has a little bit of stick left, not much because it's fuzzy, but sometimes you don't want a lot of stick. You just want it kind of a little bit secure. All right. And I'm going to trim up to, but not through the stitching line. And you want to try to get close. All right. So that's what I'm looking like now. Let me grab the book and see where we're going next. All right, so our next step is to stitch the batting tail. We did that one. Step 2. Step 3 is to stitch the foam placement lines. So the foam placement lines are going to be for like the birds and the flowers. That's where the flexi foam is going to go. I will tell you that when we go to trim that, go slow, because your flexi foam is going to be on top of your batting. And sometimes trying to trim too fast results in you cutting the batting as well when you trim. So again, here's where we are right now. We've just done that placement. We're looking at step 3, which is to stitch the foam placement lines and then place the foam covering the placement lines and stitch the foam tack down lines. I'm going to go ahead and change to, what can I do it in that will show for you? I think I'm going to try the light blue just so that you can see it. I think that's more important than if I get show through. All right. Okay. Again, if you are doing this at home yourself, just use the thread that's not going to show when you put the white over the top of it. I'm switching so that you can see it on mine and especially when I go to trim it. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and use the light blue. I think I'll probably still be okay because, you know. All right. All right, so the next step, and if you can see the picture in the window on your machine, you'll see it's going to be a placement line for your foam. So notice all of those fun shaped little pieces that we are then going to be trimming. Still not all the way out, huh? Have you guys at all been enjoying the Olympics? I was so happy for Simone Biles. All right. Okay, so this we are on color stop number 3, and that is to stitch the placement line for the foam. I have my foam, but it doesn't go down yet. I'm going to stitch the placement lines first. Oops, I seem to have a problem threading the needle today. I have taught class every single day this week, so I think my body's like going, it's vacation time. It's time to go be the weekend. All right, here we go. And yes, it is going over the edge. It's okay. Going over the edge onto your stabilizer here. That's why it's cut away and not tear away.
Michelle,
Yes.
could you put a piece of that plastic type wash away stuff underneath that just for cutting purposes?
You know, you probably could, Lynn, if you wanted to. I mean, I don't see where it would hurt anything. You could even use, you know what, you could even use if you have it. I like to use up stuff I have that I don't always use. So like, I don't use the iron away topper a lot, but it seems like with every kit of any kind of stabilizer, they always give you the iron away topping. Right. You could just use that. I mean, because it's my wash away I use a lot, so I probably wouldn't want to waste it for that. Or if you have leftover pieces, you know, you have leftover Badge Master, throw it under there.
I just think it would help pick up those fuzzies from the batting.
You may be right. Yeah, sure. It won't hurt anything. So if you want to give it a try, give it a try. I think that's a great idea. Anything for making the job a little bit easier. So having worked within the industry for the last 20 plus years, I was really excited when Kimberbell came on the scene for a lot of reasons. Number one, they had some, great projects, but most of all because, and some of you might fit in this category, and some of you may not. I started sewing when I was like 8 years old. So I have like a library of information in there. But a lot of people never did so. They just came on because embroidery was fun. And, you know, brother machines and baby lock machines were user friendly. So they don't have that knowledge in there. So what I loved the best about the Kimberbell when it kind of hit the scene was the fact that all the directions were so well written that people that did not have any background knowledge at all could not only have a great time and learn some skills, but they could be successful. All right. So we have completed color stop 3. This is what you should look like. You should have just the placement lines. I need to get some silicone on the edge of this hoop or something. I guess it's sticky. Where that foam's going to go. I'm going to do the same thing with my foam. I'm going to fold it in half. And I'm going to put the half placement at the half placement on my hoop. And then, is this square or not? We're going to see in a minute. And then just push it up. Let's see. Now I want to see, I've got plenty of room there. I've got plenty of coverage there. I've got coverage there. What about up here? Yep, all good. So on the foam, you can tape if you like. I'm just going to hold it. And if you want to hold it, but you're scared because the machine goes too fast, turn the machine down. Yeah, this needs a little silicone. Okay, so I'm just going to hold on to it and I'm going to do the foam tack down. And if you want to try Lynn's idea, try it. That's a great idea. If you want to throw some wash away stabilizer underneath so that it makes it easier to trim. This is the part that gives it like, you know, dimension, which is another reason why I really like this Kimberbell foam, because it's great for doing projects like this, even creating projects in software or in Design Center like this, where you want to have it be a little bit more 3D and not using really thick traditional foam. So the latest project that I used it in was I bought one of those new Minky Kim panels that we're going to do a little later in the year. We're going to do like a little, I'm going to do like a little Minky Kim sew along, putting all those little pieces into the different bags, the little, you know, smaller zipper bags that she does. And I wanted to have some dimension because I added some, you know, I added some quilting and stuff to the patterns. So, but I looked at the foam that I have and I'm like, this is so thick. When I go to turn this, I'm going to lose like an inch all the way around of the bag with having both sides have foam in it. So I bought my very first package of Kimberbell foam and I'm like, okay, this works a lot better. So if you're going to at some point join in on that sew along and you see the supply list where it says Kimberbell foam, now you know why. All right. Next step is to trim around all these shapes. So I'm going to take my hoop off and take it over to the table. Okay. I'm going to get two of my scissor choices out. These and these with the point. One of the things that I learned early on is when you trim stabilizer, you just really don't want to drag a lot of stabilizer along with you. So I'm going to actually cut through some of this and just kind of sections off. So you can actually use a bigger pair of scissors. I didn't pull a pair. Let's see what I got here. Oh, that'll work. So before I even start trimming, I just want to pull some of this apart because I don't want to drag all the other pieces with me. It's just hard to see what's going on. So I'm just going to section pieces off, and I'm trying to hold my scissors kind of parallel and lift a little bit when you trim. That way you're lifting the foam off of your batting. So just stick the tip in there and just lift. Okay, so now I've got this part here completely separated, and I'm going to get rid of this part here. There's nothing you're going to do with these little teeny tiny pieces of foam that makes it worth your sanity trying to save them. So I'm going to look at this one is the easier one of the two. So I'm going to do that one first. And I'm going to have both of these. And again, I'm going to try and lift up on my scissor and just check, slide it under there. Really, it's like the tortoise and the hare. Slow and steady wins the race. There's no prize for trimming first. So just little bites at a time. And little bites will also allow you to get closer to where you want to trim. Okay, when I get in there like that, I know that these scissors have a purpose, and that's so that they can get in the hoop and I can trim around easily, but the tips on these are not that sharp. So I take the other pair when I go into the corner. Let's see if I can kind of come in a little bit with this. Let me try and zoom in a little bit. All right, so with this, I want these tips. That's the best part of the cut right there. So I can just take the tip, snip, and snip. And look how close it gets into that point. So always good to have a backup of something with a really sharp point. It does pretty well most of the time, but when it starts to buckle, when the tip starts to buckle, it's not helping you. The best poof you'll get out of it is if you can get really close and precisely to the edge of your foam. All right, so now I'm going to come to this guy who's, of all of them, this guy is the bugger, which is why I started down here to begin with. All right. I always leave just a little bit around so that I always have an edge that I can pull up. And that kind of helps me pull it away from the batting as well. Sometimes I'm really tempted to go whoop and cut that piece off, but I want to have something that I can hold on to because I can kind of lift it up from the batting and I can actually have it help guide me. Got the worst one done.
You should rest that on your Martelli mat.
Oh, you know what? You're absolutely right. See, I'm such a newbie to it. I literally just got it. I got it because I was trying to trace something to create something in Design Center, and my lines were like, oh, you're a genius. Thank you. You're right. So another reason why I have one of these, I guess, huh? Oh, 100% better. See, another reason why you all need one of these. All right. Where next? Let's go here. This one's kind of easy because it's off the batting. moving along. This is the part that takes the longest time, but if you are persistent with it, you'll be rewarded with your finished project because it really is nice when the trims are close to the stitching line on this. It's more trapunto-y. I don't know, is that even a word, trapunto-y? Oh, this is much easier. Thanks, Lynn.
You're
right.
welcome.
I don't know. Can we call this a cardio workout, you guys? I think so. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just complaining. I'm not complaining, actually. But I just, maybe. This takes some time.
It's like prepping for a big quilt. You put the time in now, it saves time later.
True. I will say though, I don't think I've ever done, well, I have done a really big one a couple of times. On the home stretch. Okay. Phew, that's done. All right, let's see where we go next. So after we've trimmed the foam, we're gonna stitch centering crosshairs. So it's gonna be a little X that just sews in the middle of this, and it's gonna help us place the fabric, the white fabric. It's gonna help us place it more accurately. So you're gonna need your white fabric, all right, that's got your SF 101 on it. And we're coming back over here. From here on out, I think the hoop's gonna stay on the machine. I think we've done the majority of our trimming. Okay, so color stop number 5 is crosshairs. I'm not gonna do those in blue. I'm gonna go back to doing beige because I think those might show when I do my running stitches. And I'm gonna zoom in so you'll be able to see even the beige thread. Hey, I remembered the thread. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and push go, which is going to be some centering crosshairs to place my fabric. All right, and I am going to take my hoop off the machine so I can show you this a little closer. I probably don't have to, but I'm going to slide it off anyway. All right, so we have some crosshairs. In this case, those crosshairs are actually matching the crosshairs on your hoop. They don't always though, so always follow the directions on that placement. Okay, so I'm going to fold my white fabric right sides together. So my SF 101 is on the outside. And then I'm going to fold it again like a hanky in quarters. Okay. I'm going to put that center mark there. I just want to make sure I have enough all the way around. And you know what? This piece is so big, you couldn't not place it correctly. All right. So you want to make sure, again, your SF 101 is on the bottom and your white is on the top. And with this, I would say, go ahead and tape, because here's what I experienced with the sample. The first lines to sew are going to be the yellow lines that are around the outside. So let me bring my sample over here. And that's these right here. So what I experienced, it didn't give me a lot of puckers. I was able to actually rinse them out, to iron them out, but it certainly could be puckers. So this one, even I'm going to tape. I'm going to tape it all along the bottom here and along the top here, and just really hold it. I kind of think that maybe just a tack down, just a tack down all the way around stitch would have been nice to kind of hold everything in place, but we don't have that. So we are definitely going to tape in place and make sure you smooth everything out. And also keep your eye on it while you're stitching. If it looks like it's starting to shift a little bit, stop stitching, lift your presser foot up and kind of smooth it out. I'm going to be right there with you. So
Michelle,
colors, yes.
Does the Luminaire and the Solaris have the option to put a basting box on a design?
You absolutely can. And that would be a good thought, except the base stitch on the Luminaire and the Solaris is going to be based on the design that's in the hoop, which means that it's going to be really close to the actual design. And so when you go here to stitch it together, you're going to see that. I mean, you're going to have threads to pull out there. So good idea. And as long as you don't mind pulling out threads, you could use that idea. But also keep in mind that your basting box bounces to the top of your design when you add it. So it means it's going to sew it first, which isn't going to do you any good.
So you can't baste a design by hoop?
No.
Okay.
You can move it away. You can move the designs. You have the option of extending the hoop base larger, obviously, But a lot of times what the machine will do with that is bump you into a bigger hoop. So, but what you could do, here's what you could do. If you are okay with sewing something and then stopping and sewing something else and going back to where you were, you could add one of your you could, I'm trying to think of, I would, no, I can't, I don't know that I could do it on the machine because I could use the shapes tool, but the stitches aren't basting stitches. They aren't true basting stitches. They do kind of pull out, but I think that so this could have been done actually in software where you could have added a basting box at this stage instead of, at the beginning.
That's where my mind went as you explained that.
Yeah. So that's a case where software comes in handy.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. It was a good thought. Thanks for bringing that up. That way people know that they have that basting box, that basting capability there. I think what happens sometimes is I know that a lot of you, probably most of you have done all of your classes on your machines, but when something like that comes up, you're like, basting box, what's the basting box? I don't know anything about the basting box because it's not something that you use, all the time. So come on, where did it go? None, go. Come on. There we go. All right. So just because I want to really watch this and I really smooth it out. Again, the puckers even that I got when I wasn't paying attention was not a big deal. I was certainly able to press them out before I sewed the pillow, when I got the pillow done. But it's made me want to pay closer attention at this step. So I'm going to go ahead and slow the machine down just a bit. Right now, mine's at top speed. I'm going to slow it to 700 just so that I can pay attention a little bit better. And let's thread the needle. And let's close the little gate here and press go. So I am taped, but I'm still being mindful. So it is kind of going to do some straight stitches first before it does that zigzag. But sadly, it's not going to do them in all the places, just the place where it's actually going to do your zigzag. And then it's going to move to another place. It's really beautiful stitching. It really is. They always are. So we are on color stop number 6. If you look in the window of your machine, you'll see that they are the yellow circles around the outside. Let's see where we're going. Thanks, Lynn. Yeah. My grandma, it wasn't my grandmother, I think I heard that from. I think it was somebody else. It was definitely an older relative for sure. And I think it kind of became the joke at our house because my husband still has a pocket square that goes in his suit jacket when we go out or something. I'm like, oh, you got your hanky. And he's like, it's not a hanky, it's a pocket square. It's like, all right. You have completed color stop number 6. So the next thing to sew, they call it your background quilting. And I guess you could call it your background quilting, but what it is it's going to create all of those lines that run across in between the pieces that are going to create the trapunto effect when you finish your the other parts with the colors. All right, so I'm going to do linen for mine, kind of an off-white. And I'm going to go ahead and put my speed back up to top notch.
Hi, this is the restaurant.
Yes, right there. Class, please.
Somebody in.
No, we're doing a
Oh,
class
I'm
here. That's all right. All right. So now the next step is it takes about, it says mine's saying it's taken about 10 minutes. And there's going to be a lot of cuts on this one. Let me get my nippers. So when this is done, you're going to see a lot of cuts on the back where when it's doing this trapunto. I gotta tell you that I kind of cheat sometimes when it comes to that. I don't trim them all with nippers. I usually what I'll do is leave the item in the hoop and then turn it to hold it up far away from the flame, but I'll use since it's polyester thread, it shrivels. So I usually just take either a lighter or one of those little torch things and just quickly go over it and it shrivels up all of the ends. Please don't get too close because then you end up with a barbecued project, which is not fun for anyone. But it does save you kind of having to, having to snip all those snips. I mean, this is the kind of project like who's going to turn your pillow inside out and look at the back of it? I mean, let's think about that. I know that if it was something else, the first thing we all do is turn it over and look at the back. Not quite sure why we do that, but we do it. So then, it might be something that was, I might want to take a little bit more time with, but this is something that nobody's ever going to take the stuffing out of your pillow and turn the inside out and go, you didn't trim your tails. And you can kind of see it start to form here with your bird. You can kind of see the bird starting to stand out. Well, this is stitching because we still have quite a bit of stitching. I do anyway. I'm going to read ahead and look at the direction that I need to fold my back pieces in for when we do the envelope. So I can actually prepare that while I'm waiting for this to stitch. So it looks like on page 10, so I'm just going to prepare. I'm not going to stitch, obviously, because I'm still embroidering, but if I look on page 10, to prepare my back pieces for an envelope style closure, I can turn the fabric 1/4 inch to the wrong side along one long edge, and then turn the same edge again another 1/4 inch and press again, pin or clip in place. So I'm gonna just move over to the sewing, to my ironing mat. I'll leave you guys here on the, unless you want, I'll move you guys over with me, because if your machine's just stitching, it's gonna keep doing that for a little bit. So turn your iron on, grab your pieces.
Michelle, quick question, this is Liz.
Yeah.
I got a little bit behind, so I just finished the yellow circle. So what's the next spot?
So the next box is the linen or the beige color. After that, it's sewing the trapunto lines in the interior.
Okay.
So that one's gonna sew for about, it says 19 minutes and I have my machine, or 10 minutes, and I have my machine set to top speed. So what it's stitching is these lines right here. But you're gonna be misleaded because you're thinking, oh, it's not too bad. you know, they were kind of big, but it's actually going to sew in the middle of them as well. So it's going to keep sewing. So what I'm going to do is just scoot over to the table really quick while it's doing the same thing. And then just press my edges.
Okay, what color did you use?
I used a kind of an off-white.
Like a linen?
Yeah, like a linen color. I
Okay.
didn't have any of the glide threads here. Jeannie's got those at home. So sometimes she brings them, sometimes it doesn't really matter. We have a close enough match with the exquisite thread. So I just picked like a light linen that's more to the wheat side than the pink side.
Perfect, thank you.
So if I do Mickey Mouse linen has a little bit of pink to it for his skin, and then this, but this does not. It's definitely just an off-white. It's not quite eggshell, just a little darker. Okay, run it over to the table now. These are my long pieces that are going to become my envelope back. So I'm going to just press twice 1/4 of an inch along one seam. And you can do it. This one's pretty easy. I mean, I think you can probably wing it. If not, if you have a hot ruler, you can use a hot ruler. If I can find ours, maybe I'll bring it out. It's kind of nice too, if you're doing something and you want it to be truly equal. Ooh, I got lucky. So this is a hot ruler. This is a ruler that you can press on. So what you can do is just like fold it up to the 1/4 mark and then just press directly onto the hot ruler. So I have one of these at home. And if I have to be absolutely positively exact, I do use it, but we have some extra here with this. I got to find the side that's not the polka dots. This is the wrong side. So if you've been doing a 1/4 inch seam for a while, you can probably eyeball it.
I got a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Is this going to be recorded so I can watch it later? Because I haven't got my design yet from the place that I got
You know
it.
what? We're recording right now. So yes. And to be honest with you, I pre-recorded the class and that's been up for a couple of months. So
Oh,
I will
thank-
send you the links to all of those.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So one thing I cannot live without is a clapper because it really makes that seam, or wooden pressing block, whatever you want to call it. It really makes that fold really, really sharp.
Michelle, what's the secret of making a envelope backing that stays shut?
Oh, I think that really, Lynn, that's a tough one. And I think that has more to do with what you stuff it with than anything else. So think about it. When you sew it, you're sewing it in a second dimension. You have height and width, but you have no volume in it, right? So you're aligning all of the pieces and you're really careful. You're putting everything together. You allow an inch for the overlap and, and then you get it and you take it off of the machine and you're like, ooh, that's so pretty. It's so perfect. And then you stuff something that is 3D in it. So it doesn't always have any of the give. I guess a solution for it would be, let me think here. You could pinch. Well, yeah, I usually do a zipper. I don't usually do an envelope, but an envelope is really kind of a simple, fast technique for a project that's not my favorite words. Is it costume or is it couture? If it's going to sit on the table, it's a costume. If it's going to be hanging on your body or hanging in a museum somewhere, then it's couture. So if it's a costume item, I don't usually worry about it, but you could do a couple of tucks. So it's when you sew the envelope, you could fold like, so here's what I'm going to just try to wing it. You could kind of go like this and make like just a little fold there when you sew the sides. And that way you can see how it's popping up over here already.
Yep.
That would add, but it's going to be kind of a by case judgment because depends on what you're going to stuff it with. This pillow is pretty chubby that goes in here, but the next time you do it, it may not be. So, but you could add some, at your seam allowances on the sides, not at the, not over here, but up here where this is the edge. And that would add a little bit of extra.
I've actually opened up the pillow form and taken some of the stuffing out before.
Oh, you could do that too.
Because it's sometimes they just pop wide open.
Yeah. The other thing that you can do, and this is just an old trick, and some of you may not even have these specific feet, but most machines used to come with what they call a gathering foot, not a ruffling foot. It's a gathering foot. It's a foot. It's not like a mechanical contraption that fits on the end, on the machine. So what I used to do is your machine is designed, sewing machines, not the embroidery part, but the sewing machine part is designed for your feed dogs to work fabric through, right? You don't have feed dogs on the top, just on the bottom. What you can do is get a gathering foot, and you don't even have to adjust your stitch length. The foot kind of has a technique that it kind of moves fabric a little bit, but I usually just hold my finger behind and run like 10 stitches and then let go and then do the same thing. Well, what happens then if the fabric can't pass through is that your feed dogs in that foot begin to gather, but it's not really a ruffle gather. It's just a slight easing. So you can do something like that, which would give you, a little bit more equally all the way through here. That would work as well. So old techniques from garment industry, you guys. All right, there's one. And here's the other one. Let's see, make sure I have the right side. And here's how the hot ruler works if you want to see. So I'm just moving the fabric up to the 1/4 mark on the ruler. The ruler is right up against the edge of the fabric.
What is that hot ruler made out of?
I can't really tell you what it's made out of other than it doesn't burn at any temperature. It kind of feels like felt, but then it kind of doesn't. It's not like heavy felt. I'm not sure what it is. It feels kind of felty, but not. But I've used it at every iron temperature and it's never gotten melted, or I've never had like a smell that's like, ooh, it's getting hot in here. So for a more precise hem, if I was going to be hemming like a t-shirt or something, so for those of you that make t-shirts with your serger, if you want to do, and then I don't know how Jeannie does them. I'm just going to tell you how, and any way that works for you is fine. There's no one way that's better than another way. But from the garment industry standpoint of when a t-shirt is assembled, how they get that perfect line on when they do a cover stitch is to actually measure the exact, obviously the exact placement of where your needles are going to sew. And then you have a perfectly pressed hem at that measurement so that the two lines of the cover hem go through the top and the sergy looking seam goes on the back. So for most t-shirts, it's going to be about 3/4 of an inch. So what you would do, since we have all this time, not that this is information that you want, but now that we're talking about it, I would get this perfect 3/4 inch, and it's only going to work if what you folded is perfect and the both needles have to come to the inside and it just kind of goes over the edge. The other way to do one of those, which is to me the easier way if you're not used to doing them, is just make your hem a little bit wider. Make sure it's straight, and so from the you make sure it's straight, because that more than anything, that's kind of what's going to show on the other side. And then just trim the excess off from the back. That's usually how most people do it. Until I discovered, go ahead.
So if I wanted to order that ruler, what would I?
It's a Clover hot ruler.
Oh, okay. Clover hot ruler. Thank you.
Yeah. And it's not, we have them two ways. We have the curved and we have the straight. The curve's nice if you press a lot of curves. If you do a lot of quilting designs that, have curves in them that you have to press, the curved ruler's nice. If not, the straight one is fine too. All right, so my two pieces are ready to stitch later in another step when we get to sewing our the back of onto our pillow, just to kind of fill up some time. So before I got bitten by the embroidery bug and the software bug and all that goes with that, I came from a garment construction background. I made all of my daughter's clothes when she was growing up, and I made 99% of my own clothes. And it wasn't really it was out of necessity. It was out of necessity because I didn't have, I liked clothes that were way beyond my price point. So I made them. And then, it just kind of evolved from there. The best time ever, though, and this is coming from someone that doesn't sew anything by hand anymore, because you've all heard me say that. It's like, I don't do anything by hand. That's not why I bought this machine. But my most favorite class ever was with a custom garment creator for, we're talking dress clothes, like, cocktail dresses, things like that. Nothing that I ever would wear, but I just loved the look of them. And she had an atelier in Baltimore, and she used to offer classes for like 1 or 2 weeks at a time in just the couture techniques. And I still have the samples that I made, but there was a hand-picked zipper, meaning every stitch is put in by hand. The stitches have to be evenly spaced because on top of every stitch is a tiny pearl. Tiny pearl, like you can barely see them. So when the dress is done, that's where you see those beautiful dresses that have like those, and everything has to be straight. So, and I loved every minute of it. I never would have had cause to ever really actually use that, but it was a lot of fun to learn. It was just a lot of fun. It's always a lot of fun when you can handle beautiful fabric, whether it's your beautiful quilting fabric or any other kind of beautiful fabric. It just feels good in your hands, doesn't it? It just makes your heart happy. Well, it's better now. Nobody actually turned the air on this morning. I just went out and turned it on. I'm like, I'm back here dying.
I want to look at this.
We just put some curtains up to block out some of the noise from the classroom, into the classroom from the store, to create a better video experience, only to find out that the curtains are nice. They do block out some of the sound, but what they really block out is any airflow from the air conditioner. All right, come on, darling. Keep up. Go, 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 little machine. Looks like we're about halfway through the trapunto stitches, or the quilting stitches. The rest of it will go pretty quick from here on out. This is the part that takes the longest.
Hi, Michelle, while we're waiting. I know I was listening to the live feed this morning and I'm talking about the spray for when we're embroidering.
Yeah.
So you're saying like the 505 is not the best.
No, I did not say that. I said it was stickier. So
sticky.
let me explain the whole backstory here. So Brother has industrial products, which is where they sell multi-head machines. And so to the garment industry that does that, so that they can just spray the stabilizer right on the back of whatever they're embroidering, they promote 505. It's stickier. All right. Keep in mind that a multi-needle machine will sew through anything, and gum on the needles is not going to impede that happening. All right. It's just a different thing. I like the KK100. I've used the Sullivans before as well. If I'm doing quilting and quilt embroidery on my luminaire in the hoop, because it's not quite as sticky. It sticks. It holds everything in place, but it doesn't gum up the needles as fast. Because on the luminaire or any other domestic machine, when that needle gets gummed up, it starts shredding your thread. All right. So I have both. I have both at home. I used to use 505 exclusively whenever I had to put stabilizer into the front of a ball cap, because it wouldn't move when I went to hoop the hat. Sometimes if you try to hoop with a couple of layers of stabilizer in a multi-needle hat hoop, it kind of shifts a little bit. With 505, it would never shift. So I have both. I use both. I like both in different situations. I don't have a one size fits all.
Okay.
So, but
wanted to find something that was like best for the machine, so I'm not,
yeah,
it.
I don't think it matters. I just think so let me ask you this question, because then you'll have your own answer. What is your sanity worth? Because you could actually by my machine, I have what they call an adhesive tape remover pad, like what they use in the hospital to take the bandages off of people that are, have thin skin, so they don't take their skin with them. And I keep those by my machine. So if I see that I'm using spray based or whatever, and my needle's starting to look a little bit gunchy, I just stop the machine, wipe it off, and keep going. But if you don't want to do that, if you want to just keep going, I would say use the product that's going to work for the application. If it's, if all I want to do is hold my layers together and then I'm going to put a snap hoop around them with a magnet, they're not going anywhere. I don't need to hammer them together. I could just, keep them together for now. So in that case, and if I'm sewing on my luminaire, I'm going to reach for either the Sullivans or the KK100. Those are the two other ones I have at home. I think Jeannie has another one too that I don't have. And so I don't know about that one. If I'm going to try to keep stabilizer in the front of a ball cap while I put it on a hat hoop on my multi-needle, I'm going to reach for the 505 because the multi-needle doesn't care.
All right. Thank you.
It's nice that we have a choice. I think that's the biggest thing is we have a choice of, one or the other. And honestly, I think I've had the same can of 505 for probably about 3 or 4 years now. I don't use it that much, but when I want it, I'm really glad I have it. Yeah, you guys have to, some of you don't know this, but those of you that do know this, you have to remember that I did hats by the hundreds at trade shows for 17 years. So what I want in that situation is something that will not fail me ever. Because I'm talking to people that are passing by and I don't have time to worry about if my technique is working or not. So in that case, it was always the 505. But my events, my trade shows were always on multi-needle machines. Getting there, the bar is, all right, so I still have a few minutes, so if you want to throw questions out, that's perfect. We'll fill up our dead space with interesting questions. Hopefully I can answer it. You know, I might, Lori, I don't know. I think I already got rid of all my vinyl, my Christmas printed vinyl in the last curated class. So I have to see what I'd have to see what I can get a hold of first. But I might. Nothing's ever off the table. It's all in if I can find a source. It was fun. It was a great class, wasn't it? So I still have, I do have some in the think tank, and I actually have, they're beyond the think tank. I have them separated into the pieces and parts all separated into boxes so that I can, work out of the box. But I haven't, or baggy, but I haven't gotten there yet. But I have some fun stuff planned for some curated classes. Oh, thanks, Donna. We'd love to have you. We have a good time. I'm having a hard time thinking about Christmas when it's like 95 degrees still out. It's been so hot here in Reno this summer, hotter than I remember it all at one time. I've lived here since I was like 5, so I've been through some hot summers, but not that got that hot in July. I was really grateful this weekend so my husband got me a dog last year, I guess, finally relented. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, it is tedious. So this last summer, I took her for walks. We got her in like March of last year. I took her for walks last summer, but it wasn't a big deal, it wasn't that hot. This summer, it's like, oh my God, I'm going to burn her tootsies. So the person who is the night owl, that would be me, who would much rather see the sunrise from a night out before I go to bed than to get up early enough to see one, has now been getting up at 5 a.m. in the morning so that I can take Poochie for a walk before I come to work. But I was really grateful this weekend that we kind of got a reprieve, and the pavement didn't get hot till almost like 10:30 in the morning. So I was actually able to sleep in a little bit. But yeah, funny how things change when you add a critter to your life, right? Oh my goodness, little machine, could you sew just a little bit faster? Well, it does look nubby, doesn't it? And what it is that's usually the tie off because it's such a short amount of stitching, you know, so if the lines are longer, it doesn't have it. And I'm trying to think, I don't think I noticed it once the pillow was done. Let me pull the sample. Yeah, this one's a little bit nubby too, but what you might try if that's not working, you know, for you, it is go ahead and change out your needle and see if that helps. But it's doing the cut so quickly, you know, it's like doing 2 stitches and then it's cutting. So that might be the cause of that. Oh my gosh, Liz, I'm so sorry that you lost your air conditioning. We have had multiple 100-degree days. I mean, multiple in a row, which is, like I said, I've been here all my life. 90s in the summer is usual. 95 in the summer is usual. And really a couple of days of over 100, maybe even 3 or 4 of them strung together in the month of August, normal. Having it hit 100 and stay there at the end of June and through part of July was, I mean, for multiple days in the row was crazy. And then for those of you that don't live in the area, Reno has a wonderful art festival during the month of July called Art Town, which is music and everything, pretty much everything, plays, music, dance, that lasts every single day in July through the whole month, 90% of which is free. And then 10% are paid events. And it's this next year will be the 30th year for it. And I think my husband and I have gone now for every single year. And this year it was like miserable because usually the events would start at like 7 at night. And it's still like so hot at 7. So, you know, we still went, but we kind of complained about it. Yeah, Vegas is tough. So, my former in-laws used to live in Las Vegas, and I think I made the mistake of taking the kid down there to visit her grandparents once in July, and I'll never do it again because none of us came out of the swimming pool. I'm like, oh, don't even come out of there. And then for work, I always used to have chuckles because when I worked for Brother, the office crew is all from New Jersey, right? So the first thing they do is they get to Las Vegas, they want to rent a car, they want to go sightseeing. And they're like, oh my God, I can't touch the steering wheel. I'm like, yes, when it's 100 degrees outside, you should put a towel in the car so that you can put it over the steering wheel so that you're able to drive. And they're like, oh my God, I think I'm going to run to Boulder Dam before the show starts in the morning. I'm like, okay, you know, when you hit Vegas traffic, it's going to be like traffic, you know, like the expressway in New Jersey, right? They're like, oh, do you want to ride with us? I'm like, yeah, no, I'm staying at the host hotel, so I don't have to drive anywhere. I thought about early on long time ago, long time ago. I was a single parent for a long time and I thought about moving to Vegas because it really, at that time, not now, not anymore, but at that time, there was really more opportunity for me in Las Vegas than there was in Reno. But then I thought, you know, I don't even know if I would like the heat. I don't really like the heat that much. I like warm, but I don't like barbecued. That really, you know, people don't think about all of it too, is my in-laws used to have to replace tires twice as often as anybody else because literally driving on the pavement would melt the rubber on the tire. All right, please tell me we're almost done here. Come on, little machine. Go, 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 go. Mine's kind of nubby too. So I think I probably need to change a needle too, although I thought I did that earlier this week. So, but I think it's only because sometimes it starts and stops so frequently. You know, it is a dry heat, and I got to tell you that I used to do a lot of events in Arizona too, because nobody in New Jersey wanted, and none of the educators that lived in the eastern part of the United States wanted to go to Vegas because it was so hot, or Arizona in the summertime. But it's like I never minded it. You know, once it's 100, it's just hot. You know, it's just hot. But there was just parts of Arizona during monsoon season in that heat that were absolutely spectacular, and I do not ever regret having had that experience of a monsoon, you know. So doesn't mean I want to live there, mind you, but it was beautiful. I don't know. I think I've been to every state except for I think 3. I think I'm lacking 3 in the 17 years that I had that job, and I swear every state has its own beauty in its own way. I never went anywhere that's like, oh my God, that's the ugliest place I've ever been. I never felt that way about any of them because everything had something about it that was so unique. We live in a beautiful country. We really do. Oh, please tell me you're almost done. Oh, please, oh, please. Close. The rest of it's going to go by so fast you won't even believe it. This is like the longest part. So I'm excited for fall, I think. I love Halloween. I love all the days that will lead up to Halloween. I love pumpkin spice anything. So I've had enough heat. I'm ready for fall. So obviously, with the time that it's taken to stitch this, we always just give you a 2-hour time limit for this, you know, we put the 2-hour time limit on the calendar, but I'm going to stay and stitch this till it's done. So, but if you have other plans that you have to go, by all means, it was great having you. And, you know, the video will be up later on this afternoon. Cooler weather, pretty leaves. I'm with you. Pumpkins, corn stalks, sweater weather, and hot apple cider. Bring it on. Yeah. I'm with you. Yeah. Fall, fall, fall. Give me fall any day of the year. In any state of the union. Give me fall. I see possibly 5 more lines. Let's see. You can really start seeing that 3D look kind of popping out now too. Oh my God, only one more line. Only one more. Oh no, I'm done. Oh yes. All right, so color stop number 8. Let me grab the book. Is the yellow again for me, whatever. Yeah, the inner border outline. So you'll see a yellow circle on your screen there. So for me, it's yellow. All right, so everything's pretty much, I'm not worried about holding this down now for this inner ring because everything's pretty much trapuntoed or quilted or, you know, the white fabric is pretty sturdy in the hoop now. It's just the outside when it actually was tacking it down. My next color stop after this is going to be the vine and the leaves. So I'm prepping up my green thread, getting it ready to put on. All right. Color stop number 3 is going to be your green shade. It's going to do the leaves and the vine. Next up after your green are going to be your 2 blues, and they just are labeled bird details 1 and bird details 2. So let me show you which is which, and you can choose how you want to mix yours up. There's a light blue and a dark blue. When you see that detail, that goes with the eye and this wing, and the other detail is the bird outline itself. So what I did is use my darker blue or the blue gray to kind of outline the majority of the bird, and then use my lighter blue to fill in these details. But it's up to you. You'll be able to see a picture in the window of your machine there. It'll let you know what side, what section it's sewing, so you can choose to do light or dark. And this time I picked 2 colors of blue that really are going to show a difference. So I think I'm going to use the darker blue to do my outline this time, and use the lighter blue to do some of the other stuff. I'm just going to mix it up. All right, so if I look over here, I can see what's going to sew first. So this time I'm going to do it different. All right, April, you too have a great afternoon. East Coast girly here. Okay, East Coast girly. I'm going to do, I did that in the lighter color the last time, and then I did the outlines in the darker color. Yeah, lighter, darker than lighter. I'm going to do the opposite. So I'm going to use the darker blue for that part. But you do you. Whatever you want is good. All right, switching out now to my lighter blue. That'll be color stop number 11. If you're following along on page 13, we are on stitch color stop number 11, which is bird details. The next one up is going to be the flower centers field 1. And that one is orange. So I'm going to grab my orange and get that ready to go. Our little Trapunto pillow is really starting to come to life now. Now that we're done doing all of the off-white. Oh, good. Come on up. I know, it's like they are little buggers, aren't they? It takes a lot to trim them. That's like the longest. I thought that this part of the sewing was the longest, but I think I spent more time just trying to trim those little pieces of foam. Okay, switching to my orange, which we're gonna do the flower fills right now. The orange is gonna sew again later to finish up on the flowers and add the beaks. So don't worry that your bird beaks are gonna sew on this round. Next color up is going to be your violet or your magenta, whatever color you're using for the flower part. All right, next up is your flower outlines. That's your purple or your magenta, whatever you're using for that. So if you successfully trimmed really close to your stitching line here, you were rewarded with this wonderful little bird that the top stitching around the top of it, the decorative stitching falls just right outside of that first cut line. So it really makes them poof. And if you didn't get them as close as you wanted to this time, that's okay. Next time you will.
Hi, Michelle. I got a question for you.
Yes.
It looks like when it was doing the trapunto stitching, there's
Mhm.
like 2 rows for some reason. It didn't stitch very well, and then I could tell it's going to start coming out. Is there any way I can fix that?
Yeah, actually, so at the where exactly are they? Are there somewhere where the outline has already sewn or where the outline is yet to sew?
Well, I'm a little behind, so I just did the yellow, and I was going to go to the green, and then I just noticed out that I pulled
Okay.
a stitch, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's unraveling. So it's just a little bit in between the bird and the flowers.
Okay. So since you haven't done the green yet, open up your needle plus minus and go back up to the beginning of the trapunting stitch. And then you can use the needle plus minus to advance through it. So you'll see it on your screen. You'll see like a little green crosshair that's moving through the design. Keep in mind that sometimes it did the lines farther apart and then went back and did lines in the center. So just, I would say start going by short distances. And that way, when you get to it, you can just push go again and have them restitch it.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Oh my goodness, Leslie, you're fast. Have a great rest of your day.
Hi, Michelle. This is Annette.
Hi,
Um,
Annette.
I got my embroidery all done, so I'm gonna go and I'll finish my pillow later.
How did
And
you
thanks
guys all get it done so fast?
because I started before you.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, then you're forgiven. All right. No worries. Thanks for coming, Annette.
All right, talk to you later. Bye.
All righty. Bye-bye.
I have a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Uh, When I purchased the design, is this supposed to go into my Kimberbell download area?
No, well, it depends. If you bought dealer digital for the year, then
No,
that
I-
always goes into your Kimberbell file. If you just bought the one, then Jeannie probably sent it to you, in which case you have to save it.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh. It is, isn't it, Lori? I did love it. I mean, I wasn't sure when I started it, but then I'm like, wow, this is so great. And my first thought is every time I do something like this, I write notes of projects to try to come up with in software just to kind of, to utilize the technique. I'm never going to copy anybody, but I don't believe in reinventing the wheel if somebody's already done it. It's like, oh, this is really cool. What else can I do with this? Okay, one more purple flower. The quilting does take forever. I agree. But it's kind of so just so you know that you can also so for those of you that have Design Center and IQ Designer, Trapunto doesn't have to be just lines that go across. It can be, and it's beautiful in this pillow. I mean, there's nothing that says the idea of Trapunto in general is to be a knockdown stitch so that the parts that had the foam on it would be the star of the show. You could use, you know, if you created your own block or something, you could, you know, in IQ Designer, you could certainly use the stippling. If you make the stippling tight enough, if you make the stippling stitches close enough together, it's gonna look like Trapunto. Any of those, pretty much any of like the geometrics, not the things that are random. So if the one, I'm thinking of the one that, you know, has flowers and stuff, the design that's built into Design Center and IQ Designer. But if it's something like there's like crosshair, you know, crosshatch looking thing there. There's, you know, there's one that looks like, well, I call it the goats. It looks like rows of goats. There's stippling. There's a lot of choices within Design Center that would create the same effect. Yeah, you could use the stamp tool as well. Oh, thank goodness. Okay, we have some mint green. So that's the our green. And so I'm going to put that back on. I don't know if it was the same green or a different green, but I'm using the same green that I used for my leaves and stuff. Looks like it's going to be like a little bit of accent stitching around the inside of the flowers, maybe, or on the flowers that don't, that, I don't know. We're going to find out. I don't remember. This was like 12 projects back when I did this. I will tell you the boo bag one, the cinch sack is really cute. I think that might be next month. I'm not sure. Oh yes, it's just this the stem part of the flower. And then our last color is going to be finishing off with tangerine. So cute. Okay, back to the orange. And then we're done with the embroidery part and we can move on to the stitching. So if you're ahead of me and you're finished with this, the sewing part, go ahead and turn your machine over to be a sewing machine. So you'll need your presser foot, your J foot, and you could just still use embroidery thread, the white embroidery thread that you have, that's fine. I don't look at this as something that's going to get a high amount of pressure on any of the seams. So there are times where I do sew things together with embroidery thread. There's times where I do take the time to change the sewing thread. If it's not a seam that's going to split when you sit down, don't worry about it. That and home deck. Home deck, you'd want it to last a while, so you probably wouldn't want to sew it together with embroidery thread. Okay, I think we're down to beaks. Yep, down to beaks. Wow, the second one looks even prettier. I think I like the way I switched the blues around. All right. Oh my gosh, yay, you guys, finally, right? Okay. You can take that hoop off your machine. I'm gonna throw it on the table for right now. And I am going to say, okay, it's okay to cancel the pattern. And normally when I change feet, I just flip it over to sewing to begin with, because my hands are kind of big and it's hard for me sometimes to change that presser foot when I've got, you know, when the arm, the embroidery arm's there. All right. And I'm going to take the orange thread off and put white thread on, so I'm ready to go when I get back here. And for the assembly of the pillow, we're going backwards in the guide to the 5x7 hoop. The assembly is the same for both. All right. Okay, so get this up so I can stand up. All right. I'm going to take this out of the hoop now. And I'm going to set it on my Martelli mat. I'm going to move that over. All right, so go ahead and sit your drawing down there on your Martelli mat and frame it with your 8.5-inch pop ruler. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of my excess stabilizer above the line here. There, now I can see the lines better. And then take your rotary cutter. I have to move the ironing board. I've got one teetering on the other. Table just not quite big enough. So take that, put that down there. There we go. Now I have the whole table. Follow over into the notch. I love that it has the notches. Sorry, move this way. Got to get my head in there. And there we go. All right, so let's put the directions for the assembly is going to be on pages 10 and 11. I'm going to back up to pages 10 and 11. All right, so we've already cut this part. We have to assemble the pillows. So we want the yellow polka dot. And we're gonna do the sides first and then the top. So this is gonna be kind of like your sashing, not sashing. It's going to be your flange when we get done stitching it and pressing it. So I'm gonna take my mat. You know what? I'm just gonna grab the ironing part of the Martelli mat. It would make it a lot better, a lot easier. And then I can just press on this. All right. So I'm going to take this over to the machine right now. I'm also going to take with me these guys because I already pressed them. And as long as I'm over there sewing my sides, I can run these as well. So I'm going to go over. I'm not cutting any of my stabilizer away from the back. It's just going to add a little bit more stability to the pillow. No need to trim it. All right. So I'm threaded up. I didn't change my needle. I didn't change my bobbin. I just put white thread in. I know that some of you use this. I know that some of you don't. So I always use it, and I'm going to show it again. If you have a brother or baby lock machine, pretty much any model up and down the line, it has a pre-programmed 1/4 inch seam foot for you, setting for you, that you can just use your J foot. And here's why I love it. Because my feed dogs are a lot longer there than they are back here where my 1/4 inch foot sits. So it just makes it easier for me to kind of hang on to things and get that seam straight. So I'm gonna go ahead and use that setting. So if you are on a brother or baby lock, under the utility section, if you go down, stitch number 130. Now, depends on the model. It's going to say P and it's going to be lean into the right. All right. So what it did is it moved your needle over to the right from 3.50, which is center needle position, to 5.50, which is a little bit right, which if you align with the edge of your J foot is a perfect 1/4 inch seam. You also have that stitch under your Q settings here. I'm just going to use this one here because I'm already there. All right, sides first. So I'm going to go ahead and take my salvage edges off. So that's anything that's got, like, you turn it over, you can see like holes in it there. That's part of the salvage. And then also on the other side, it's going to be where the print stops. All right. All right, so I'm just going to align the edge of my foot with the edge of my fabric. And I'm going to go ahead and turn my pivot settings on, meaning because that way I don't have to take my hands off of it. All right, so I'm just going to start stitching. It's going to stitch in place, and then it's going to begin to stitch. And all I have to do, I have a big area of this that's underneath my feed dogs, and all I have to do is watch that it stays even with my foot. When I get down to the end, I don't, this is like I said, this is a pre-programmed stitch. I have my pivot settings set, which telling the machine that whatever I start with, I want to stop with. All I have to do is tap. It's going to do a stitch in place by itself. It's going to cut. It's going to lift the foot. I turn this over, make sure I leave enough. I can always trim more. But there you have it. 1/4 inch. Perfect. The whole way down. All right. And do it again. This time, I have a multifunction foot control down here, and it's not all machines have them, but I do, and I have one at home. And so what I did here was tap. Now I don't even have to do that. I'm gonna just, because it's already programmed into my foot control. So the heel tap is gonna be my tap. So I don't ever have to stop. I don't have to stop. I don't have to ever take my hands off the project. I'm a huge fan of these. Okay, both hands are still here. All I did was lean back on my heel. All right, I'm gonna take these over and give them a press. And then I'm coming right back. Always I press flat first and then I press open. I'm going to press flat first. It seats the stitching. Press open. All right, so I have a little bit, I'm going to show you how I'm going to get rid of this. It's not much, but I have a little bit here. I'm not going to press right over here. I'm going to turn it over to the back. Press it from the back. I don't steam because it's just going to make it worse. And then with this, and now I don't have it anymore. All right, I'm bring it back over to the machine. And I'm going to do the same thing. Again, I've got my foot control that I'm going to use to actually stop it, but you can do whatever you want to do. I mean, just you can tap too. Green means go. There's my stitch in place. Pressing back on my heel. All right, and while I'm here, I'm gonna go ahead and sew these folds down on my back, my envelope back. So I pressed them 2 times. All right, now, so this is only 1/4 inch. So if I put this against the edge, it may not be enough. So I'm gonna go ahead and move my needle position just a little bit further. Like this. It just moves it in closer. Maybe that. All right. So then I can do the same thing. I can let the edge of the foot be my guide. And I don't worry about back stitching on this, but since it's already programmed in and all I have to do is kick backwards with my heel. This is both edges of this back are going to be enclosed in a seam allowance, so I really don't worry too much about back stitching on them. I worry more about just getting the hem straight, and then on my sidebar I just have the cut. So I have a sidebar, little side pedal has the cut on it, and these are ready. Let's go take them over to the ironing board. All right, so I'm gonna go do the same thing. It's in the embroidery to get to the edge here. And then press it open. All right, so I have already done the next step, the 3, 4, and 5, because I pressed earlier while I was waiting for this thing to sew, and I just stitched it. I want that nice and flat because I'm going to be stitching in the ditch there in a minute. All right. Place the pillow front right side up. So your birds should be looking at the sky, not looking at the floor. And then take one piece of your backing and set it on the top, lining it up. Make sure you have equal on each side. With the hemmed edge, the folded edge sticking up. And then you're going to take the other piece and lay it, overlap it. Again, hem facing up. And go ahead and put some clips or something around it. I'm going to go ahead and clip, but you can do pins. And be sure that you know that you're going to be sewing from the other side because this side is bigger. All right. So you're going to be sewing from the other side. So I like to clip. And I'm going to be sewing a 1/4 inch seam allowance around that other edge. Not the one I'm looking at, not the backing. You're going to be sewing your 1/4 inch from the front side so you can see where your 1/4 inch is. And you're going to sew all the way around. Okay. Almost done. All right. Oh, yeah, that's a great idea. So Donna said that sometimes she puts a little piece of Velcro over the flap to keep it, to keep it closed once you've stuffed it with a pillow. That's a great idea. All right. So you want to pivot around the corner. And sometimes it's taking one stitch at a time until you see where you're going to line up with the other. And I want to make sure I don't push that up when I make that cross there. I'm also going to show you one of my little tricks I do every time I have something that has a corner in it. On how to turn a corner, how to trim a corner and turn a corner and not have a little nib at the top, at the corner, not have a little nib sticking out with your corner. All right, in every tutorial for Kimberbell, I always see how they cut it this way and then they cut it like notch it. When you do that, you end up having a corner that isn't square at all, but has like a little pointy nib at the top. So I'm going to try to zoom in really close on this. See if I can get in closer. I just want you to cut at a 45-degree angle straight across, cutting to but not through the stitching line. All right, so I'm all the way up to the stitching line, just straight across. Don't do that. Don't flange the corners there. Up to but not through. I'll trim that off later. Doesn't matter. It won't affect anything. Me trimming the corners won't affect that. And then straight across. Right to but not through the stitching line. Right. Let me get that little excess bit off there. And then I'm going to utilize my fingers, but you can also utilize like a little, I'm almost reluctant to say use a point turner because that never ends well. If you push too hard with a point turner, you just end up poking through your seam. So let me trim this excess off here. All right. I'm going to do one at a time. And so I'll do all of them and I'll do them slow. I'm going to go up into with my thumb and I'm going to go to the corner with my thumb. With my fingers, I'm going to fold both of those sides over. Let's see if I can get it folded. So in the same direction. All right. See where I'm on the inside now. My thumb is in here. I'm folding with both of these fingers. I'm going to put the points of my fingers together and then push. And then if I give it a little wiggle, I have a perfectly straight corner with no point on it. And I didn't even have to use a point turner to do it. It's the 45 degree, it's the angle straight across. So again, here's my thumb. And you don't have to put them all going in the same direction, as long as when you're turning it, they're going in the same direction. All right. But it doesn't matter. I could be pushing as long as both sides are going in the same direction. All right. So I've got my thumb there. I've got my two fingers holding down either side. I'm putting my fingers together and then pushing with my fingernail. Pointy corner. Let's do it again. Thumb. I tend to push them all forward, but it doesn't matter. You can push them forward or backward. Push fingers together and poke with my fingernail. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Pointy corner. This one, I'm just going to go the other way because it feels easier. Pushing, but just as long as you're pushing both corners in the same direction, not one of these. You want to push them both the same way. Bring your fingers together and point using your fingernail to push it out. All right. If you need to use a point turner of any sort, let me show you. My corners are pretty much square now. What I don't want to do with a point turner is go bing, 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 because if I do that, it's going to poke all the way through. What I can do if I'm not happy is I can place the point turner on the seam itself and slide with this part, or even with this part. Just slide it over, just work it right along the seam. And what your goal here is not to poke into the corner, it's to flatten out the piece you just put there. All right, so when I get to the corner, I stop and I go on the other side and just follow the seam allowance and push that towards the corner. It is never going to get any squarer than that. But just go at it, just don't poke at it. Poking is only going to result in a hole or a little nib there. All right, so I'm just working it. I'm just going along my seam line. And when I get to that corner, I'm just, so if you cut straight across, then in theory, both of these pieces folded over should meet in the middle like this. All right. If you've done that and then you've cut off half of it here, that's what pokes that little piece of fabric up in the corner. All right, so just slide along the seam line. Doesn't matter if you're on the front or on the back. And then when you get to the corner, just stop. And then do it again on the other side. Just slide along the seam line. You're essentially trying to just lay that fabric down, both sides of it in the same direction. Pointy corner. Well, you know, it takes forever to sew the. Oh, okay. She can come in to ask the question.
So you know when they do their the edge to edge and the luminaire, when you stop, like let's say you get tired and you stop at like step number 22.
Yes.
Can you go through
Yeah.
and go to set?
Yeah.
You just go into. the
So what you
custom
do
list.
is you just bring it back up from the beginning. All right. And you go all the way through. You don't make any adjustments. You go all the way through to the sewing screen. If you look down at the sewing screen, then you'll see 1 of 24. And then there's an arrow key so you can scroll
On the
through.
sewing screen or the embroidery?
Or the embroidery screen. Yeah,
Okay,
the embroidery
so
screen.
when you go minus and plus, the needle minus and plus, you can just hit that and then.
No,
in
no,
the
no.
bottom
You
left
have to
corner-
start, you have to go into this design, pick the whole design and click start. And it's going to start like you're starting over with the positioning and stuff, and just keep clicking OK. What you want to do is get through all of that until you get to the embroidery screen, because then there's a screen at the bottom that says 1 of 20, 1 of 50, and it has an arrow key that you can arrow through
Where
to
is
the,
that 1 of 20, 1 of
it's going to be on the embroidery screen at the bottom.
just the main embroidery?
The main
screen?
embroidery screen just before you get ready to sew.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to press this really quick and I'll be right back. So, you know, to do that, all of my corners are nice and square. Now I don't have any little nibs sticking out, and I don't have any poked holes. So I'm just going to press this really quick. We're almost done. We just have to do a stitch in the ditch. Jeannie, I can show her in about 5 minutes. All right. So the last thing to do here is to stitch in the ditch to create the flange. And you can do it with any method that you want. If you have a stitch in the ditch foot, you can use that. I don't have a stitch in the ditch foot handy, except unless I want to put on my walking foot. So I am just going to put my needle in a center needle position. And I don't like to start right in a corner, but that's going to be, you know, up to you. I don't like to start in the corner because I'd rather not have, I'd rather have a chance to get a running start at going straight, if that makes sense. So I'm going to put my foot down and put the needle in. Come on. And I'm just, what I'm looking at, whoops, I hit the back instead of the front. What I'm looking at is I am looking at this little line on my J foot right here. And that's the one I'm going to actually keep. Stop. Let me turn my pivot features off. There we go. And that's the one that I am watching where my stitching is just falling right in the ditch. And then watch for it. I went a little bit too far, so let me go back one, pivot, and around. The other thing you can do with this, if you have a guideline on your machine, is you can turn your guideline marker on. And let's see if I can, let's turn the sub one off. The main line is at 3.5. I can also park my guideline marker right along the seam there. And in this case, what you're watching is not this anymore, you're watching this. And as long as that guideline marker stays right in that ditch area, your stitch is going to drop there. I'm going to go ahead and make my corner, and then I'll match up to where I started. and clip that little thread. Thank you all so very, very much. At this point, stuff that little baby with that little pillow that you have and just enjoy your handiwork today. Thank you for stitching with me. It's always so much fun. Thank you for those of you that hung in with me. Look at all of you guys. There was a bunch of you today. Thanks so much, everybody. I will have this downloaded this afternoon and I will send it to YouTube and I will send you a link as well. And Miss Joni, I will make sure that I send you the link to the one I pre-recorded before this one. Okay? So you'll have both of them.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye. Have a nice weekend.
You too.